So we're out here today at this, I say it's abandoned, it's really only half abandoned. You have one part of the cemetery that's still in use, and then an older part of the cemetery which is pretty much abandoned, all back into the woods there. Although it looks like there are some cleanup efforts going through, which is kind of nice to see. But let's go see what we have. The name of this cemetery is St. James, which there is a Baptist church just down the road by the same name. Although doing a little bit of research, I found out that there is really no connection between the two, other than just sharing the name. But it is an older African-American cemetery, which is pretty neat to see because there are some pretty old graves in the back there. And as you can see, there are still burials that are happening here. So let's just have a look around. And you can see one other neat thing about this cemetery is that there are quite a few handmade or homemade grave markers, which are always kind of neat to see. This one is from 1925. See, this is a homemade marker as well that it's kind of broken apart a little bit, which is a little sad to see. Some military headstones. And this is sort of the older part, as best I can tell, which is, for the most part, kind of abandoned. And you can see there are headstones in the woods. These are homemade as well. That's from 1948, Clarence Fields. I'm assuming there are also quite a few unmarked graves in here. I mean, it might be hard to see, but there's an indentation there, and there's a couple of indentations there. That one does have a headstone, but the others don't. See, there's definitely a grave here and here. And actually quite a few right in through here. But I don't see any stones. If there are stones, they might be flat to the ground and covered with some of the ivy here. Here's mother-in-law, Eliza Dandridge. She died in 1934. So the lettering on that stone is actually pretty neat. It's very crisp. And of course, some graves in through here. I'm assuming there definitely are. You can see a couple of headstones off in the woods there. Graves over here. I do see a couple of stones sticking up, but they're too far in to really get to. And here's somewhat of a clearing. You can see a collection of graves in through here. some more of the graves. This is John Jones, he's 1960. But you can see there's also some graves here that I don't see a marker for them, but they're clearly outlined and into the woods there. More headstones. That one back there is very thin. Let's see what that is. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything written on it. If there was, it's long gone now. And I do see quite a few little indentations all through the woods back here, which would be indicative of a burial, but I don't see any markers for them. More in there. You can see some of the cleaning effort going through here. This was all wooded and full of briars last time I came through. It's 1937. And this area is cleared up a bit. World War II veterans, 1982, which is really not all that long ago. So this was clear a little over 30 years ago. You can see here's Archer Brooks, another homemade headstone. He died in 1924. Mary Good, died 1928. One other thing that's pretty neat about this cemetery is that, I don't know if you can see, but there's a hill which runs all along the border of it. What that actually is the outer defenses of Richmond, which were dug during the Civil War. So that's actually National Park, whereas this side is not. But this trench line runs all the way down to the James River, and maybe half a mile from here is Fort Harrison, which was the site of a pretty big battle during the Civil War. So there's a lot of history attached to this land. But it is nice that somebody is clearing this up, because really the last time that I was here, all of this up into maybe that shrub there was just overgrown. You could barely get through it. Maggie Schools. These are relatively modern graves here. This gentleman, is a very new headstone. It's a veteran's headstone, so 2017. It's really not a very large cemetery, but it is kind of neat just to see the abandoned area there in the back, which is being cleaned up. So hopefully one day you'll be able to walk through and see it all. But that is St. James Cemetery. So I hope you enjoyed walking through it. And maybe we'll find another older cemetery to walk through. All right.